That's all I need, right? Is this true? Am I live? Do I need to double check for myself? I think I'm live. This is dumb. If I am live, can you let me know, please? Somebody? Oh my god. I need to double check for myself. Yeah, I can hear my voice. Nice. Hey there, y'all. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I'm here on the stream. I am live, and I'm going to open my Discord. I'll probably repeat all this in a moment. I'll just post early. If you are in here, say hi, just so that I know you're in here. I probably say that a bunch of times. I don't really have anybody to vamp with because I'm here by myself, and I don't have like editing software to vamp with because I'm here by myself. So I'm going to just hang out. I think I'll probably like start at noon, and I'm basically gonna have to take this straight to 1, and then that's it because I have other work I've got to go run to. But as you come in, let me know who's here, because it doesn't show me. I don't know if you guys know that. It doesn't show me who's here. It just shows me that somebody's watching. So here I go vamping. Not really. Can you please tell me who is watching, if somebody's watching? Who are you? Who's this? Who am I talking to? I'll just type here in the thing. I need to see if Brandino send material to an advertiser. Hey everybody. I think it's easier to write text that you can see. I hope you can see the text when you come in. Okay. Welcome. It's about noon. If you've been in here just chilling, because I see it says 2 concurrent viewers, but I don't know who you are yet. If you've been chilling for the last 12 minutes that I've been live, cool. You've just been seeing me hang out. I checked my email and said a couple words, pretty much to space. But here I am, and here you are, and I'd like to know who's in here. I know that some of you are kind of gonna shuffle in, like I wrote. So I don't wanna start too fast. I'm gonna give it about 5 minutes. But here I am. I have so many things that I want to talk about, and so many tangents that I want to go on, and so many places that I want to be taken by our conversations. Um, but I don't want to start that too early. Ah. Hey, Jackson. You've brewed your coffee and you're here. Nice. I actually drank some coffee this morning, which I've not been doing. I switched over to matcha and also nothing because caffeine often gives me a headache. Oh, what do you got? Are you still being made? That's cool. That's cool. You take your time. Yeah, I have a feeling that that's what's gonna happen today, but that's totally okay. It's pretty blustery here. There's a winter storm like nearby that isn't totally affecting us yet, but it's like super super cold and gray, so it feels like a perfect day for a stream, and not a perfect day for my next job, which will be driving an hour and a half in a big vehicle with a lot of weight to transport sound and sound gear to do a show. So that kind of sucks, but pays bills and lets me continue doing this work. What was I starting to say? Oh, Jackson, you made me think of coffee. Yeah, so I I started to wean myself off caffeine because I'm just like super susceptible to any stimulus change. Like, uh, in many ways, shush. In many ways, I feel like kind of a wimp, like very, very, very weak in the sense that like any change for me is like earth shattering. If I get like I could not function on the amount of sleep that Brandon gets. If I get less than like 8 hours on the dot, boom, I'm like I start to fall apart. My skin starts to just like come off my body. Um, but I think I really wasn't made for caffeine, but I really like it anyway. And my girlfriend, who I will just henceforth refer to as Claire because that's her name. Claire, like, kind of, she likes coffee a lot, and she's made fun of me because she'll go like, you know, you do this thing where you drink coffee and you really like it, and then you get really amped and jittery, and you like kiss me a bunch and jump around, and and then like after like 10 minutes or 20 minutes, you like look at me and you start rubbing your temple really hard, and you go like, oh, my head hurts, and she just like makes fun of me in that way, which is whatever it is. I don't think it's quite bullying, but maybe it's pretty close. Anyway, I drank coffee this morning, so we'll see how that affects the stream. How do you drink your coffee? Do you like French press, drip, that other thing that's kind of like drip but for a single cup, or stovetop? Like what? Today I today I used one of those like really cool steel, like stovetop espressos, um, which are good, but feel like they have a tendency to burn the coffee like really fast. So like you're making the espresso and it like percolates. Oh, maybe that's what it's called, a percolator. And it's like percolating up from the bottom. Like it's water, grounds, and then like where it sits, right? And it's like boiling up. And like I feel like if you sit it like a fraction of a second too long, all the coffee just is burnt. I don't know. That's what I drank today. And I didn't burn it, which is pretty sweet. Anyway, a French press. An AeroPress. I don't know what that means. I know what a French press is. That's always been my favorite way to drink it. Or maybe my second favorite way. Because I'm remembering that Turkish coffee is like the absolute shit. I love that. I really like the process if I'm gonna make coffee. I think why I like coffee is like for the ceremony of it. That's kind of why I like a lot of foods and things. I feel like I'm somebody who really enjoys like the ceremony of making food or the ceremony of doing a certain thing, right? Um, uh, I don't really like to prepare food. Like I do it when I have to, like especially like work. Like I'm gonna be gone after this gig or after this stream. I'm gonna be gone on a job for like over 12 hours. So I usually have to prepare food. Um, but I definitely like don't like that. I don't feel like it's a meal. And with coffee, I feel the same way. Like if I could, maybe you would feel the same way if you could, but like if I could carry a French press and a water boiler around with me, and then every time I wanted coffee, I could just like whip it out in the middle of the street and like sit down on the ground with my coffee and like prepare it, boil the water, grind the coffee, pour it, sit and wait for 5 minutes. Like, man, just like that would be ideal. I had a professor who would do that with tea. Like he'd come into class. He was a painting professor, and he'd come into class, and his office was like across from his normal classroom, and he would he would come in to the class. He'd like say like his class is supposed to start at noon. He'd come in and be like, "Hey class, get yourselves ready. I'll be right back." And then you could just hear him like in the other room like shuffling things and like boiling his water, making tea, and he'd come back with a mug, and he just had like his office mug, which was really sweet. Um, cool. Oh, this is for anybody who wants to Discord in with me. Um, just remember, just remember to keep, I guess, the sound of the stream muted you, while you bounce in, because otherwise we'll get a delay and some feedback. Um, so, so Jackson's here, and we have some other ghost viewers so far. Maybe ghost viewer, say who you are, please. Please. um, until that point, uh, pretty much seems like a one-on-one, but let's get to work. Um, I really want to jump into Jackson's thing. All right. So here's kind of how I want to do this. I want to treat each of these with as much care and time as I can, which kind of does not cater to like the medium of live stream, which is like generally you want quite a bit of stimulus, I think. But I want to like watch it, pause, and think, and I'm gonna try to talk my way through my thought process, if that makes any sense. Like, very often if I'm intaking new media and I'm thinking about like critiquing it, right? I generally like am watching and I'm thinking and thinking and thinking, and thoughts are like bouncing off of each other, and I usually end up with like this like gestalt of different thoughts, like this cloud of different thoughts about the project and like what's gone on, what I've experienced, either seen or heard or both or whatever. So for this, I want like each of these, I want to do that exact thing. I want to I just want to like take it in and be patient, and then once I've said some things and thought about it, I think that's when I'll call you. So Jackson, like we'll start with you. I'm gonna watch through this, and I'll get to start checking this out, and then when I go to call you, I'll probably just like cold call you, or maybe I'll give it a minute because I know this is on a slight delay, and I don't want you to be like taken off guard. Yeah, so that's what I'll end up doing, I think. If that works, we'll see if that works. This is like totally a new process, and I would totally like once we're done this hour, in the Patreon or the Discord or both, like once I put this up, if you have some thoughts or like feedback about how this could change whenever we do this, I don't know like when we'll do this again. Right now it's just going to be like when we can't fix it in post, but yeah, I'd just like to know like how you felt about it. So we'll do that. I'll like remind everybody about this process as we continue going. But for now, let's watch through this.
So this is a test.
Okay.
It's a test of, well, primarily my Voigtlander 25mm f 0.95, which is very soft at 0.95, so we are filming at 1.4. ISO is at 400. We're shooting at 4500 Kelvin, 2398, the usual. Um, but yeah, this is a test of that, but also it's a monologue that I wrote. So here we go. What is this but a blind pursuit? An endless push towards an unknown and undefined goal. Do they even know what they're doing to us? The lies they tell themselves to justify this moral ambiguity. We live in fear. Constant. Unfading. Yes, there are ways to fool ourselves into forgetting, if only for a little while. But that is what we are. Fools. For inevitably, the harsh reality crystallizes. We are trapped, forced to the edge of a bottomless chasm. This black maw gaping at us, the looming mockery. There are those who stand firm on the ledge, those who resist. But yet society takes no notice. It is but that which is expected. There are those who cannot take it, those who jump, letting go of the slender thread of reality they have, facing the darkness head on. What awaits them, you ask? No one has ever returned to the ledge. No one has ever clawed their way back up to sunlight. To tell the joyous news that it is not hell that waits below. Nay, it is endless fields and a world devoid of pain and suffering. Such is not the case. Any hope like that is dangerous. An unsettled mind pining for a perfect world only descends into insanity. So, must be snuffed out. We must content ourselves with make-believe, small bandage on a gaping wound 5 times the size. I pray it is enough to keep our feet from propelling us headlong to the void. Do they even understand what they're doing to us?
I don't even wait. Hold on.
Those are lies they tell us.
I want to skip the blooper for a second because I just want to like feel that. Damn, dude, that was really great. That was like super intense. I'm always really affected by like the music that's chosen. Like obviously, that was really good music. It fit perfectly, and like the timing of the swells felt like they were choreographed to what you were writing. Or maybe conversely, maybe you choreographed your speed to that, or they just coincided, which I guess is like my first thought. I'm gonna have so many tangents because this was really good and there's a lot of cool material, and I'm gonna try to talk fast because I don't want to forget any of my tangents. Isn't that like the beautiful thing with aligning music to video, whether it's dance, which I've done a lot, or just cinematography of anything, right? Like aligning music, it's so easy. I think viewers, there's like what do you call that? Just like viewers believe that every element of art is deliberately chosen. Even when people don't think they believe that, if a viewer engages, whether that's going to the theater, pressing play on whatever, like that act of engagement, the act of sitting down in a seat to intake material, you're opening up. Even a critic who then goes back to their office and types up like a scathing review, for a brief moment, they've been opened because you have to, right? Like you can't truly intake material without opening up. And so, like I find that really funny when I'm just throwing sound on work and it's like, oh wow, something aligned perfectly. So like that's my first thought is I don't know if this was deliberate, but your rise and fall of the music choices were perfect. The piece reminded me a lot of maybe it is Max Richter. It reminded me a lot of Max Richter, just like the way that he chooses to create like swells with string quartets and such. But definitely really freaking good. The content itself was beautiful and heavy and hard. I'll throw out a bunch of ideas. I almost like want to write these down because then when we go to chat, we can do that. So I'm gonna I should just bring in the whiteboard. That would be fun. Maybe next time. So it reminds me of the Twilight Zone intro, in that like there's something, and like that's not meant to be like a slight at all. There's something that feels introductory about it, in the sense that it is providing you a framework for how to think moving forward. It literally feels like the intro monologue. It feels like I can imagine like in a Shakespearean play, it's like the first thing you experience, like the preamble, or the thesis, right? Like I'm always using that word, like what is the thesis here? And sometimes a short piece doesn't need a thesis within it. Sometimes the short piece is the thesis for something larger. But you framed like you use fuck you. Fuck you, man. They versus, oh my goodness, why? They versus we, right? We can talk about that when we're chatting in person, but you use like those themes. You use they have done this, we have done this. I think about in therapy, or like I should say therapists like to call this out sometimes. I like to talk about this, that in sessions, we have this tendency to not speak in I when we're a bit removed. I'm gonna this will be the first of many times that I say this, but I wish I could say a lot of different things at one time, because no one thing takes precedent over the other ones. But like, yeah, so like when we're chatting, when we're talking casually, either one-on-one about something emotional or with a therapist or something like that, we're working through ourselves. We have this tendency to want to say like, like, oh yeah, you know how when you're at the store and somebody cuts in line in front of you, you want to punch them in the back of the head? And it's like, well, the therapist's job is to be like, well, no, I don't know that because I don't experience that, but it sounds like you experience that, right? So like, can we speak in first person? Same thing with like we. Very often, like when we choose we, I fall into this, not that it's a bad thing, but I end up using this a lot in my writing too. This kind of like interesting way to create a world. When we speak in we, we're unifying, and we're saying, as a viewer, it's your job to if you're going to go on this journey with me, to say, yes, I am part of we, right? So that was like a really interesting choice to, you have this like ambiguous they and ambiguous we, and now I can like look at I can look at your words itself. I'm going to kind of read through them a little like rambly. I also I have such a tendency to want to connect with the impact of like, I don't even know why I do this, but like the impact of this. Things like words like this. There's a heaviness and an intensity to like when and where we place this. This is here, that is there, right? So this or I or we, these are all like present in space words. They and that are away. They're outward words, you know? So what is this but a blind pursuit? An endless push, and like action words kill me too. They're just super important. An endless push toward an unknown and undefined goal. Do they even understand what they're doing to us? Do they even understand what they're doing to us? The lies they tell themselves to justify this moral ambiguity. And even that, like the lies that they tell themselves is like super or sort of all inclusive to the we. I think what hit me the hardest was the back and forth. I like, by the way, I really did not thoroughly watch through this or any of the material that I'm going to look through. I didn't watch through this before the stream. I like skimmed it. I skimmed everything just to see like, oh, what am I going to be looking at? But I really didn't take time to take it in. So this is fresh. You kind of do this thing where you're back and forth. You're almost like whiplashing me between expectation. You know, you have this dichotomy of like up down. Once you get to, you move the viewer, you kind of move the viewpoint to edge of chasm. Let's just go like, you take us into intro. What is this but a blind pursuit? We live in fear. That's thesis of thesis. That's like opening lines. The harsh reality crystallizes. We are trapped, forced to the edge of a bottomless chasm. Boom. That's like that like changes the theme for me, and like places us. You know, you've talked about we, places us at the edge of this chasm, which to me also, not only is it the edge of a chasm, it's the edge of a harsh reality. The crystallization of a harsh reality. I can feel the sharpness under my bare feet standing at the edge of the chasm. There's really good wordplay happening there. We're like, oh my god, like I'm at the edge of this chasm. And so like again, like I'm gonna once over this talking out loud, and with the intent that like this is the kind of thing I do for myself as I go through a piece of work, a big piece of my own work, and that as I start to see themes, I then look in the same verses and see, oh, do I block part of my theme by saying something reverse, right? Like, I don't see an example, but like, for inevitably the harsh reality crystallizes. We are trapped, forced to the edge of a bottomless chasm. Its black maw gaping at us in a looming mockery. That's all like thematically consistent, and I really appreciate that. But like, that's what I'm saying, is that there are keywords for me that as I go through, I'll see whether or not they align. And so far through this watch through, hell yeah, they align. There are those who stand firm on the edge, who resist. There's a really cool thing happening there too. By standing firm on the ledge, you've created the person who's actually the most inactive. They're not walking away from the ledge. They're not jumping, right? There are those who cannot take it, who jump. What awaits them? I'm just going to like paraphrase this. What awaits them? Is it expansive fields in a world devoid of pain and suffering? No one knows. But there's this great dichotomy that you've created of like, what could be better? What could be worse? We don't know. I think with all of this really intense imagery, and this is now I'm going to jump out. I think this will probably be my closing remark before I give you a call. I think like you start out with imagery that feels like something that a guy could be saying in his bedroom with a pill bottle on his bed. And then you enter into a space that is really beautiful, like in the sense that you're crafting like very intensely vivid landscapes. And and I know like this monologue is a test, which is to say, continue to be worked on. Oh, and I'm remembering now. I think that you said that you have more. So when I call you, I would love to hear about that. Um, but what I'm seeing just based on this iteration of this monologue is I can imagine you, and that's why I wrote like Twilight Zone. I can imagine you giving this monologue in front of like standing somewhere. I don't even know, like standing somewhere bleak, like low saturation. Um, it's like zoomed pretty far out, and you're just maybe like under a spotlight. Like that's why I almost imagine like a soliloquy, you know, like Shakespearean monologue. Like you're just standing there and you're facing the audience. One of the things that I kind of had trouble with was the way that you were facing, like sort of 60 degrees away, made me feel like you were either talking to someone or, which I think you might have just been reading, I'm not sure, but it definitely, like placing you, a young man, in very obviously a bedroom or a dorm room, it felt less fantastical and more more very I don't know how to say this, like more very obviously like a young man's issues with the world, right? Like, and this is something I'd like this I think I'm ready to give a call and so to hear some of your not defense but like your thoughts on it, because I want to know like where you're coming from, because what I see and what I see you in the dorm room and what I hear are not at odds, but what I hear is so ornate and beautiful, and when I pair it with what I see, it's a little it changes the framework. So I'm gonna give you a call in like I'm gonna continue to read for about 15 seconds, and I'm gonna give you a call just so that this catches up, if that's cool. Okay, here I go.
Hello.
Hey there. How you doing?
Howdy. Doing well.
Good. Cool. I'm like we're like multimedia like millennials
Right.
experiencing many different forms of communication. So you're probably like it's probably weird because you'd be on a slight delay to yourself.
Yeah, so I've muted the live stream, and then I'm hearing you through the app.
Cool.
But it's weird seeing you in the past.
Yeah.
Reacting.
So what we'll do then to make sure I'll switch frames to myself, even though that might actually be worse for you. But what we'll do is I'll keep it like I won't keep this multimedia so that I'm watching through you again. We'll just chat about it.
Fantastic.
But yeah, so I would love to hear. I think you wrote somewhere, maybe it was on the Discord, that you you have more of this, or that it's expanding, right?
Yeah, kind of. So when I wrote this, it was a couple things. Obviously, it was that test, but that was more of an excuse to just try to shoot something fun.
Yeah.
I've always kind of wanted to dabble in just in acting and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was kind of like an opportunity to do that. At the same time, the day I was recording this, I had a class that was kind of fun. And so, like, there are traces of frustration against the collegiate system.
Sure.
But obviously it goes a lot further than that, and mainly, it was an attempt to get instead of someone who feels very desperate, very just tired of the world and the things that you're, expected to do, and things that are like quote unquote normal, like going to college, potentially going into debt,
Yeah.
college to go anywhere in life, things like that. And then I just kind of took it a lot further than just frustration against college. And so I wrote that. I think the entire thing was done in like 2 hours from starting to write. So I didn't memorize the entire thing, so you can tell I like look at my phone and try to remember what the lines are next. But it was primarily a writing / acting exercise, but then also like lens test, and like I still missed focus. It was way too shallow. I should have shot it like T3.6 or something instead of whatever 1.8 that I shot it at. But
right. It's funny. Like those are all things that only you are gonna notice, right? I mean, like,
right.
I hope this doesn't drop the call. I'm actually gonna drop you off of the Wi-Fi. Looks like we're good, right? Still good?
Yep.
Cool, sweet. Because it was like, Discord was like, I'm struggling, because I think I'm like live streaming and there are 2 computers in here and whatever. Okay, so hopefully this will be better. But yeah, like it's funny because like the focus thing, maybe Brandon would have noticed. I don't think so, because it's kind of like I was saying, like there's just sort of this like, as a viewer, the moment I choose to click, like I'm in it, and the same thing with your pauses. Like I didn't even notice you really like looking at your text, which is great. So like that's awesome. What a fucking world, right? That we can like draft something up in 2 hours and be able to actually like try it out in our medium, like with minimal consequence, and create something that's like really beautiful, and be able to expand on that. But so yeah, like I definitely see that you're really like you're playing in territory that I also really like to play in, which is like definitely from a place of incredibly personal and intimate, but in an ambiguity that allows the viewer to superimpose their own emotions and difficulties onto, right? Like that's like literally all I exist to do. So knowing a little bit of background, knowing like what you were experiencing, and then how you kind of like abstracted and pulled out from that. Can you talk a little bit about where you then are deciding you're going to go with it?
As far as like what's next?
Yeah. Am I wrong in that you had said?
No, you're right. You're right. So I wrote this. I think I might actually have a date on the original file. September. And so, this was like right after school started. I was frustrated, all that stuff. And so I wrote it then. I didn't really touch it after that. I didn't really edit it or anything. And then there's this film festival contest thing that I don't know if you're aware of the company Moment. They do like a yearly like film festival type thing where you shoot a film on a phone, and you can try to win a flight to New York and meet a bunch of people and show your film and all that. And so
cool, yeah.
Past 2 years I've wanted to do it. Things always like got messed up, whatever. I don't know if it'll happen this year, but I was like, well, I might as well try to write something. And then I realized I could use the monologue because it's already mostly written. I did tweaks to it and turn it into more of like a short film with there's another character, but it's pretty minimal as far as like it's gonna happen on a rooftop. I was gonna have him like try to shoot it to where it looks like he jumps off, but then I realized it actually ends like hopeful but like desperate. And so I'm gonna try to do it where he doesn't jump off, but it's like this kind of like you think he's gonna jump off and then he doesn't. And I'm gonna try to shoot it at like right after sunset, where it's like super not low light, but like since the iPhone's pretty limited, like it'll look good because it's iPhone footage, but also it'll look like kind of bleak and sad or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, now since I've finished the script mostly, there might be some tweaks here and there, but now is just to find the rooftop, which I think I could do it somewhere here on campus.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I need to get the right equipment as far as like audio. But then I think I'll be ready, and then I'll hopefully shoot that this or next month.
Cool.
But yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like that creates a framework, right? Like it's like that
Right.
that helps me to see where you're going, and it definitely creates like more linear storytelling, I guess. Like you're speaking in fantastical terms, but then you're paralleling it with like very like digestible imagery.
Yeah.
And that's cool. Like that's a cool decision. Um, I like I was wondering where it would go because there is this fascinating like you're writing in a verbose fashion, like in a very poetic fashion, and so there's something very like I said, like there's something very like interesting and Shakespearean, and I think like
Right.
it goes with that to say like yeah, of course he's going to be on a rooftop and he's going to consider jumping. Like that's the move, right?
Right.
I think that's a really good decision. I think it's funny that I kind of like half felt that, like I said like Twilight Zone monologue,
Right.
because it feels sort of similar. I think that's going to work. I think that'll be
Yeah.
a cool decision. Are you like you going to have somebody operating your phone, or are you gonna have it
Um.
placed?
So I'm gonna have act. I'm not quite sure because it's like I know what I'm looking for as far as performance,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I could potentially do it myself.
Yeah.
But I also like I'm a DP, so like it's really hard to let go of the camera.
Sure.
And I'm gonna go for a very handheld look. I don't think I'm gonna lock off
Mm-hmm.
ever. Um, One thing I'm thinking about, just to make it more interesting, is to like throughout the monologue, to like intersperse with these random clips of like very abstract, very like quick cuts of things. I don't know what those things are, but like people walking and then like something flying over and like just like very like disorienting kind of imagery to kind of pepper in throughout that monologue.
Oh man, I'm super into
And
that.
I don't
Yeah.
know why, but like for some reason I have a. Have you seen the TV show Sherlock Holmes with like Benedict Cumberbatch?
No, I never have.
So there's a character in there who's like. Have you read the books at all?
Like a bajillion years ago, so I'm just gonna pretend like I didn't.
So Sherlock Holmes has this like arch nemesis named Moriarty.
Right.
And I don't know why, but I get a sense of like Moriarty's like spirit or something through this kind of monologue, and I don't know why that comes to mind, but it does. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna actually shoot it. If I can find the right actor, then yeah, I won't act because that's hard,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't feel ready to do it here. But if I have to, I probably will, and just lock off and just be like whatever.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to do kind of handheld. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, that's like a funny thing too, right? Like if you make the decision that you're not going to be the actor, and then as you're in this stage, which is literally just like fantasizing about all the different elements and how they play together, choosing an actor for this, depending on the way the person that you choose, like totally shifts the monologue, right? Like
Yeah.
I definitely got the Moriarty thing, like knowing a little bit how that character works. I think like I had said before I called you, like I was feeling like a young man in a dorm room has giving this monologue has a vibe to it, especially like in our culture, right? Like
Right.
there's something like not dangerous, but does that make sense? Like there's
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah.
almost like, oh, okay, cool, like he's a young angry maybe guy, like what is he gonna
Right.
do?
Right.
And obviously like that's not, I don't think that's what you're going for, and I don't think that actually
Yeah.
reads that or reads
Yeah.
as that, but with the addition of like the dorm room. So pair that away, and then place fill in the blank person on rooftop, and then choose who that person is. It's like it's so interesting, like like you place a like a young white dude, like college guy in a trench coat at the edge of a roof gives a different vibe, right, than like you know, like a young black guy, or like anything, like a young woman,
Right.
you know, like that. Instantly, there's such a different imagery that's happening, and a different like way that you're reflecting society.
Totally.
So yeah, like I almost like would wanna. Do you have a theater department at your
We
school?
do. So I'm gonna try to reach out through that and people who I know and see if I can find someone. I know one actor who's decently good. He just doesn't really fit the role. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I don't know. So I'll have to look around.
Well, maybe this will be a fun opportunity to actually do like, you know, the casting director, like actually test it out with a couple friends, because I would love to. Ah man, like I would love to see like different people internalize this, you know, with minimal direction, and give it
Right.
back to you and be like, you know, experience all the varied ways that it could be delivered without the context, like without the framework you've given, you know. um,
Yeah.
could really could really be cool, especially like with an actor who's, you know, who's experienced at acting. Like if you're saying like you prefer to be behind the camera, obviously there's somebody who prefers to be in front of the camera. As for music, damn, like I said before, really good.
it,
Was it
it
Max
really
Richter?
wasn't intentional. All this like when I was watching just now with you, it was like, oh, that worked really, really well.
Yeah, yeah.
When things swelled and when things kind of died down, like yeah, it was a track I found on Music Bed, and um, I'm pretty sure I found it after I wrote it and after I performed it even, so it was more just like it lined up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have done things where I've like written to music.
Hmm.
I shot a short film a while ago um, called Verso that was specifically written to the music because it was for this music bed contest that we didn't win, but
Hmm.
it was still fun to shoot. And yeah, but yeah, this is just coincidental.
Cool. Good. Yeah, that's awesome. It definitely it had. Are you familiar with Max Richter?
Not too much, actually.
He recomposed Vivaldi's Four Seasons, and they're like, it's an amazing. I think it's called like Vivaldi Recomposed or something. Really fucking amazing. He's done a lot of stuff, but he did this theme that was then used in a couple different films, but it was best used in Arrival, if you saw that film.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did.
He made this film called, or this song called On the Nature of Daylight, which just like, even like thinking about it like gives me chills, because it's just such a an incredible composition. He made it a palindrome, so he wrote like themes, and then mirrored them backwards, and had,
Dang.
and like so it's a string quartet, and like they go in a direction, and then they go opposite, and you know, and it's just, I mean, I actually can't, I think it was maybe Kronos Quartet, I don't remember. Whatever quartet it was just immensely talented, and like
Wow.
to make an actual acoustic, you know, recorded session sound like it's strings played backwards, like with the reverse attack and decay, like, oh my god, it's just incredible. um, but yeah, you should definitely check out that piece of music, and then like used for Arrival was just absurdly good and powerful.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, like the music that you chose has a lot of Max Richter vibes to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, you could also use like, I'm such a sucker for like choral stuff. Um,
Yeah.
you know, like there's such room, like for me there's for me you know, music plays such a big role, obviously, but like as thinking about themes and the ways that themes need to line up to create good imagery. This actually kind of goes. I could use Arrival as an example again, like Johan Johansson, but uh, choral would do some like wild stuff for this, because you're like talking about the abyss, right? The chasm, and like
Mm-hmm.
having the music behind be voices, you know, like is very evocative of like the chasm. Or like if I was gonna score this, I would compose using probably entirely like edited and altered voice, because it could be
Interesting.
taken as the voices in the chasm. It could be it could be taken as the voices from, you know, below the ledge, who maybe are calling out to you like, hey bud, don't jump, you know what I mean?
Right.
um but like, so there's that's just like, that's probably the way I would play in this space. But
Yeah.
I mean, this is all like I said before we did this. This is all just to be like shooting shit, figuring out
Yeah.
like ways that things could be done. But I think I'm gonna jump off and try to get to at least one extra.
Sure.
I'm not sure what else we have. I think it's gonna be kind of like whiplash for all of us. But but I really appreciate you coming on and giving this
totally.
material. This is like super super fun.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, cool. I will. I'll talk to you after the stream probably.
All right, cool.
All right. Yep.
See ya.
Bye. All right. Sweet. Back to the lonely studio. Here I am by myself. Cool. So I need to like shake off. I think these streams are probably going to need to be longer than an hour because I was like, oh, we can spend 20 minutes with a piece, but I'm not so sure we can do that. Let's go back to scene 1, and I want to take a look at. Actually, you know what? To close up space, I want to listen to one of Neil's tracks. So let me see where I can find that. He sent me a link to it. Let me switch over so you can just watch me scrambling for a minute. And this will probably take us out. Open, please. Stop. Stop. Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm dying. Sorry. I'm like trying to remember how to get to the songs that Neil sent me, because I know he sent them to me. People. Maybe this way? Oy vey. Please. People. Trying to do this fast and easy. There we go. Okay. No. It's a really good track. Okay. Stop. Autoplay. Okay. So, I'm not sure if Neil's on here, but he may be watching later. So, hey Neil, gonna do some talking about you for a couple minutes. And I think we're gonna close it out without getting to chat with you, but we'll end it on some music, which feels nice. So Neil is recently a patron, and I don't know if any of you are on the Discord. His his introduction of himself was really cool, and something I felt a lot of similarity to, in that he's studying medicine and plays music. And for a background from me, all throughout my childhood, I wanted to go into medicine. That was like my dream. And it took me many years to realize that like the desire there was just like want to / need to help, and I felt like a drive to use my body, use my mind, which I've always like known is pretty able, pretty fast, pretty capable, of learning, of doing, of being in emergency, all that kind of stuff, to help in whatever way I can. And when I was younger, like in a lot of ways, giving in ways that may or may not like even harm me, like basically like sacrificing something of your own to give, to help and heal, was something that I was like didn't have a problem with. And for me, it's actually the main reason, like chat with me on a different day about why I dropped out of college a bunch of times, but like that was part of it, was like kind of like the mind fuck of like, okay, maybe I'm not made for this, you know, maybe I'm made for something else. Maybe I'm made for healing in a different way. And for me, it's taken a long time to realize like healing comes from music for me. Something I can pour myself into that doesn't feel detrimental to uh, um, creating and maintaining like a long life, as opposed to the idea that like, oh, I can go into medicine and I can be good at this, but it also may be taxing, and my life may be shorter, or I may burn out faster. Anyway, this is all just to say that Neil wrote in his intro some similar themes, and that kind of had me reach out to him personally and chat a bit about that. And he's just like he's just been constantly like a source of like very much thematically who I have been. So that was really really cool, and it was so good to then hear some of his music and feel that same kinship. You know, like it's always nice to be like, oh, there are other people out there who are doing very similar things. Like a lot of what you guys do is very similar to what we do in tone and in drive, I think. But that in particular was like a very personal one. So so I've actually listened to, oh, where is my little cursor? There it is. I've listened to a bunch of these, and they're really great. I can't remember which one I wanted to listen to end us out. Let me see. Where is it? Oh, Lifeline, Fire, Smoke, and COVID. Let's go with Lifeline.
In the darkness vision, you were lost in the light.
No lyrics.
Let's get through this life. Give me light.
There's some backing vocals that sound like synth. Could work for you too, Jackson.
Trusting in these hopes between the lines. This is all gonna be alright eventually. It may not be today, but the rest is assured we'll be fine. You may walk on or sail the stormy sea. Let's get through this life. Give me light. Now's the time. This is all gonna be alright eventually. Trusting in these hopes between the lines. This is all gonna be alright eventually. It may not be today, but the rest is assured
Mm. Oh. Oh, it's not over. Oh, I love that backing swell. That's really good. Cool. So, oh man, a lot of thoughts. So, my first thought will be, I'm horrible at speaking without like contextualizing using anecdotes. I think that's like truly a bad thing that I do, but I'm gonna do it. So like when I started studying composition, or a couple years into studying composition, I had this composition professor. He was supposed to be my advisor at the second school that I was going to go to, but then when I dropped out, I went to his office and was like, "Hey, I'm going to drop out, but I really like to continue studying with you. Can I just like come to your house and do private lessons?" And he was like, "Hell yeah!" So for like a while, it was like 6 months or a year, I think. I went, I drove out to his place, and we just had like private lessons and shot shit for a while, like every week, I think. It was really very sweet. One thing that he would say to me like so many times was I might have said this, I've said this before fairly recently, and I don't remember if it was like to this community. But one thing that he said was he would point out times that like in a composition, if I had a piece that was say like 5 minutes long or 7 minutes long or something, he'd point out like and circle, if he was holding the score in front of him, like something that I did, like a theme that I did that might be like a bar or 2 bars or 5 bars long, and he'd be like, he'd circle, and like almost every single time in a piece of mine, he'd circle it and be like, "You do this one time. Why do you do this one time in this piece? Like you have all these other themes that you're growing, all these other motifs that you're building, and in composition, like, you start with like form, right? Like my piece is going to be a sonata, an ABA form, or like I'm going to do like an ABCBA form, whatever the fuck, and then from that point, like you can create like a backbone, and then usually you dissolve the pieces into one another, and you let your motifs just sort of build throughout, build and alter. That's like one of the ideas of thought for how to build composition. That actually like surprisingly applies to like contemporary music, even though it might not seem like it a lot of times. Because very often you can tell like, oh, this is the verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, something like that. But I think what makes really good music is when you're taking that same skeleton and then you're building theme that's altering slightly across it, or building up to something if you're looking for crescendos, or if you're just trying to like dissolve shapes into one another. But one thing he would always say is like, why do you do this one theme, one time? Like, oh my god, it's the most beautiful thing that you wrote, and you give it to the audience one time. And me, as like, I guess I was like 20 or 21, I was like, oh well, like that's what makes it cool, right? Like I do it once and then it keeps people wanting more. And he basically was like, no, you're wrong. Like that's not how it works. Music is intangible. It's like transitory and ephemeral, and like you give your audience something once and they can start to digest it, but auditory experiencers, the first time they hear it, they're so busy taking it in, they can't really even get it. So then that second time, at least that second time or third time that you give it to somebody, when they start to expect it, now they're like, that's the release, right? It's like, oh, you give it to me again, right? So, and it took me a long time to internalize that, but I think I'm like very much in agreement with that now, that themes should be repeated and grown from each other. And so like one thing that I hear you do really in a really cool way is you have like, I think you build I think you drop a little bit of piano in right about here, and that's the first time we hear piano.
No need today, but the rest is assured
Piano?
will be fine.
Yeah. Ah, and it's so minor. Ah, it's like delicious. It's like, it's gentle and it's perfect. It's exactly where it needs to be.
You may walk
But,
on.
and I know you do it again, and I'm like not saying that you don't do it again, but like I experienced that, and it's, you know, for the first time at like almost 2 minutes into the song, and I'm like, oh my God, I want more of that. Like I'm, you know, it's like candy. Like I'm hungry for more of that piano. And I think like you stay this piece, and some of your other pieces I see even like you used as a tag, like chill, but you stay fairly chill. And there's something that I see a lot with, you know, chill music, which is like music that can be kind of chill, but there's this emotional sort of pressure underneath, right? Like, and that's what things like those, it's cold in here and I'm like beginning to shiver. Those like synth vocals. I'm saying synth vocals because they're processed in a way that makes them sound like synths, which is always lovely. But those vocals underneath get push against that chill. You have this chill threshold. It's a technical term, and then you have this intensity underneath. It's like really just desirous. That's what I feel like can go. That kind of feeling, like desiring a longing, can sit underneath chill music. And so the vocals do that, this like right, this like longing. I can feel it in my gut. And then that piano does it, and it's the same thing. It's like, it's not intense, it's just there, and it makes me want more. And so you do it a little bit, but one thing I would want is, you know, you give somebody something once. So let's say, for example, like themes in here that are throughout is you have guitar and vocal just steady, and they do the same, they do their thing, and they're telling a story in a certain way that's so consistent that what was at the foreground, which is those two items, are so consistent in intensity, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but like lack of dynamic. They're so consistent that what was in foreground actually, for me, falls into background. And then those other components, those elements that come in every so often, every time they come in, it so augments that experience, it actually feels like it takes stage, which is really good. And for me, like that's so beautiful. And I don't know, like I would want to hear alterations. So again, like not actually challenging this piece. I think it's an incredibly lovely piece, and I would and will continue to listen to it casually on my own time, because it and its brothers and sisters here on this YouTube channel are like super, super lovely. But if we're just like shooting shit for conceptualizing, you know, new works of art, I am such a like sucker for show theme A once, show theme B once, you know, and then show theme A and B at the same time or something like that, you know, and you can create them in a, they're still chill, but they come together and synthesize something new, and that's sort of like where the journey happens. And for me, I feel like I miss that because the piano starts to take precedent as that background, you know, background foreground instrument, and I don't ever hear it with that female vocal, and I want to hear it so bad. Like I want to hear the female vocal come back in and do something. Either it's the same thing, which creates like this ostinato element, you know, ostinato element kind of like being like, I am this thing that happens in the same way at a similar interval, right? Like either an ostinato element can literally be like a bass line going boom, 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 and everything else changes over it, or it can be something that happens once every 24 bars, right? And this this vocal's kind of doing that, because every time it comes back, it's not really changing, but it taking the journey of doing the same thing and then being layered underneath this new element of like piano, or you do like a chord change right at the end, and that's actually what made me think of my composing instructor telling me, like, don't give somebody something once, because you do a chord change, you change your structure once at the very end, and I'm like, oh, I want to hear more of that. I want to listen to that, and then I'm gonna have to probably call it, because I'm cold and I gotta go to work. But let me listen to that, and this is gonna take us out, and when it ends, I'll probably cut. So yeah, I'll listen to it and then I'll cut. Starting to come in. I want that like piano in, yes. You know, like, oh, I want more of that. I want at least one more set of like piano's going, guitar's going. You know, something like that. I want that. Something that can drive me for like another 30 seconds, so that like I've experienced the story and the vocal and the, no, please don't play. And the let me switch to scene 2. I've experienced the vocal and the guitar, and I've experienced the introduction of these other themes, the piano and the vocal, and then at the end I just get to sit in like it's giving me everything I want. And even if the pace changes, it's like it's just on top of itself, you know. Anyway, that's that. I'm gonna have to call it, but this has been fun. It's like we either need to do it for longer than an hour when we do these, or I need to get better control of myself. I think probably the former, because I really don't want to like do a disservice to any of these. I really want to like take the time to give each of these beautiful pieces of work the attention they deserve, and give time to each of you to think about and conceptualize different ways we can make stuff. Maybe if we do this again, I'll also like include some of my unpublished work, just to talk about like ways that I've been moving forward, because I do this exact same thing for myself, where like I'll write a piece and then I think, oh, that's probably pretty good, but then I will go back and as editor look back and just think like, am I actually saying the things I think I'm saying? That's so important, you know, like, because I'm in my own head. So when I write something, it works for me, but I need to know if it actually makes sense. So maybe when we do this again, we'll play for a lot longer. I hope this was enjoyable. Even in rewatch, I hope this was a fun time. It didn't feel whatever, any negative describer you could think of. But thank you for joining, and enjoy our pre-recorded Fix It and Post that we also dropped an hour ago. And we'll see you shortly. Bye, y'all.